My husband and I, 27-year-old female, went to a festival this weekend in a town about a 4.5-hour drive away from where we live. We agreed in July that we would be staying at my dad and stepmother's place, as we haven't seen them since last year. We drove down on Friday evening after work and got there at around 8:30 p.m., ate dinner, caught up with my dad, and basically went to sleep an hour after getting there, as the festival started early, and we needed to leave the house by 8 a.m. The arrangement, according to me, which my husband agreed to initially, was that we would meet up with his brother's family at the festival and spend the day there. When we got there at around 9, we walked around for maybe 20 minutes before my husband told me we needed to go fetch his brother. He did not tell me that we were going to go to them and walk around with them. I kept quiet about needing to go back to my dad, chatting with my sister-in-law for a while, but told my husband we needed to go back to my dad soon. This was around half an hour after getting together with his brother. He told me we would, but another half an hour passed. My husband and his brother just kept walking through the stalls, looking at the displays and ignoring us. I was starting to get irritated, but wasn't angry. When we finally got back to the place we left my dad at, it was probably an hour and a half after leaving them to fetch my brother and sister-in-law. I called my dad to find out where they were, and understandably they had moved on to look at other displays around the festival. I then told my dad and my husband that we would meet each other by the entrance displays in half an hour so that I could first get something to eat. My sister-in-law wasn't hungry, and my husband and his brother ate something when we met them earlier. I ultimately decided not to buy something as the lines for the food were too long, so I told my husband we needed to find my dad. This was over 2 hours after we had left them. But no, the baby was getting fussy, so no one could leave. We needed to find somewhere to sit so that he could eat. We went back into the main hall to find a seat, which took another 20 minutes because they had to look at the displays shown in the main hall. Okay, so we get to the seating area and we get coffee, and the baby is eating. I again, maybe for the 4th time, reminded my husband we need to go back to my dad. But this time, my sister-in-law heard me. The other times, I pulled my husband aside so they didn't hear me saying we all needed to go, and she rolled her eyes. I couldn't believe it when I saw that, and I know my husband also saw but didn't do anything. They then said that the main event was starting at 1. Mind you, we had left to fetch them at around 10. So this was about 3 hours of my dad and stepmother, who were hosting us for the weekend, being alone and me trying to get my husband to listen to me. I was angry at this point, and my husband saw and he told me to just call my dad and tell him to come to us. I wasn't going to be telling my dad what to do. A person's child doesn't just tell them what to do in our culture. It's considered rude. I did tell my dad that the main event was starting soon and we could save them a seat if they wanted. The reply I got made it clear that he was unhappy that we left them alone for so long. But around 1:20 p.m., he called me to say they were at the main building and would join us. When they got there, my brother and sister-in-law greeted them quickly and went back to looking at the main event, which is fine. We were there to watch this event. But not long after, they, my husband, his brother, and sister-in-law, just left. They didn't say where they were going or anything. They just left. At least at this point, I could spend time with my dad and stepmother. By the end of this event, we were sitting around a table, having lunch and talking. That's when my husband and them showed up and sat with us. Barely 5 minutes later, my brother-in-law walked away and my husband followed him. My dad, stepmother, sister-in-law, and I were left there for another hour or so before they came back. By that time, we had seen everything available at the festival and needed to leave to go shopping for dinner and to get home in time for the sports that were happening. Rugby is big in our culture. We said goodbye and then went our separate ways. We got to my dad's house just before 5 p.m., and immediately my husband disappeared into the bathroom without saying a word and stayed in there until the match was almost halfway through. I feel like he showed me that he doesn't respect my wishes and my relationship with my dad. I am building a better relationship with them, as a lot has happened in the last few years. And I do feel that if I don't at least apologize for missing half the day with them, I would be losing some of the progress I've made. I just want advice on how to apologize to my dad for his behavior, mine as well, as I'm not innocent in this. I didn't stand up for what I wanted to do. The whole reason why I feel like I need to apologize is because we live so far away and are still early in our careers. We barely make enough to live each month, so we never get to go visit. And my dad tries to visit every time he's in our town, but that happens every other month for an hour if I'm lucky. My husband's family is in town all the time visiting his mother. We see them at least once a month. So my question is, how must I approach this with my dad in order to apologize? And how do I tell my husband I'm unhappy with how everyone acted and that I won't go to a festival like this with him again, because he loses all his respect for me when we are near things like this? Almost forgot, it's late at night and I'm still quite upset. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, maybe try, I'm sorry I didn't leave my husband and his family to spend the day with you. It was rude of me and I'm sorry. I'm also sorry my husband is so rude and I apologize for his behavior too. Comment 2, why didn't you just leave them to go find your dad? Yes, your husband is rude, but you could have hung out with your father while your husband followed his brother around all day. Now for the update. A few days after the festival, I called my dad to apologize for that whole disaster of a day. He was super understanding, but he mentioned that he felt pretty neglected during the festival. His words hurt a bit, but I had to deal with it. It was time to talk to my husband directly about how he acted. I asked him about all the times he just disappeared and how those moments affected my relationship with my dad. He brushed off my concerns, saying that I was overreacting. I mean, seriously? This was the man I married. We were supposed to be a team, not just me doing everything in a bad rom-com. This led to a tense argument where he accused me of being too attached to my dad. Like, excuse me? My dad and I have had a pretty rocky relationship in the past, and we were just starting to fix it. So yeah, I was going to be a little attached. A week later, my husband's brother invited us to a barbecue at his place. I agreed to go, hoping it would help fix things with my husband. Spoiler alert, it did not. At the barbecue, the atmosphere was awkward. My husband was practically a ghost. He was there, but not really there, you know? I caught him laughing with his brother, as if he had totally forgotten about me and our issues. Then, I overheard him making a joke about my attachment to my dad. It was like a knife to the gut. I confronted him about the joke right then and there, and he dismissed me again, saying I needed to lighten up. What was it going to take for him to get how serious this was? The next day, he texted me saying he was going out with his brother. So I decided to spend the evening with my dad instead. While I was at my dad's house, we sorted through some old boxes and found family photos. One photo caught my eye. It was my dad with my husband's father from years ago. I had no idea they even knew each other. That gave me an idea. I decided to pull together a small family gathering at my dad's for the upcoming holiday. I secretly invited my husband's parents, hoping to catch my husband off guard. On the day of the gathering, my husband showed up late, and you could see the annoyance written all over his face. But then his expression changed when he saw his parents there. The room was filled with tension as he realized I had planned this whole thing. It was a chaotic mix of awkward conversations and unresolved issues. I had planned a game where everyone could air their grievances in a light-hearted way. As the game went on, my husband's frustrations spilled over, and he confronted me about what I had done. He accused me of trying to control his family dynamics. The evening ended with him storming off to the bathroom, isolating himself again. After a while, he came back, but the atmosphere had shifted. His parents were visibly upset. They confronted him about how he acted towards me. Finally, he snapped and demanded everyone leave. The gathering ended with his parents leaving and him feeling embarrassed. After that, I quietly packed my things and left with my dad. A few days later, I got a message from my husband, apologizing for his actions. I told him I'd be staying with my dad for a while. He kept reaching out, but I was staying distant. Eventually, he showed up at my dad's house to talk face to face. I opened the door, ready to deal with the situation head on. I'm still processing everything that went down. Seeing him in front of me, all sad and apologetic, made me feel a mix of anger, hurt, and just a little bit of love. But I know I can't let my emotions run the show right now. I really need to think about what I want and what I need. It's going to take time to figure everything out, and I might have to deal with some more stuff with my dad and my husband. So yeah, more updates to come, I guess. To answer a few questions, my husband and I have been married for over 2 years, and our relationship has had its ups and downs. We struggled with communication, which became evident during the festival. Prior to all this, we had discussed spending time with my dad and his family separately, which made his actions more disappointing. I believe he has a good relationship with his parents, but he never wanted to involve them in our issues. I don't know how his parents found out about the barbecue, but it was a surprise to him. I'm not sure what happens next, but I need time to think.